Hashtag how gaming became a billion-dollar industry. Imagine telling someone in 1972 that a simple bouncing dot on a black screen would one day spark an industry worth over $200 billion. They would have laughed at you. They would have called you delusional. And yet, here we are. Gaming is not just entertainment anymore. It is a cultural force, an economic powerhouse, and one of the greatest commercial success stories in human history. Today, we are going to trace exactly how that happened, from a single arcade cabinet to a global empire that dwarfs Hollywood, the music industry, and professional sports combined. Let's go back to where it all truly began. The year is 1972. Atari releases Pong. It is not technically the first video game ever made, that distinction often goes to Tennis for Two, developed in 1958, or Space War in 1962, but Pong is the first game to achieve genuine mainstream commercial success. Atari placed those machines in bars and arcades, and people lined up to drop quarters into them. Within 2 years, Atari had sold over 8,000 arcade units, generating millions of dollars in revenue. The concept was proven. People would pay to play. By the late 1970s, the arcade era was in full swing. Games like Space Invaders, released in 1978, became cultural phenomena. Space Invaders alone is estimated to have generated over $2 billion in revenue by 1982. Pac-Man followed in 1980 and became one of the most recognizable characters on the planet. Arcades became social hubs. Teenagers spent their weekends pumping quarters into machines, and businesspeople took notice. The first billion-dollar video game companies were beginning to form their foundations. But arcades had a limitation. You had to leave your house to play. And that limitation was about to be shattered entirely. The home console revolution changed everything. Atari's 2600, released in 1977, brought gaming into living rooms across America. For the first time, families owned the hardware and bought individual game cartridges. This created an entirely new business model: sell the platform at a manageable price, then profit continuously through software sales. Sound familiar? Every console manufacturer today still operates on a version of that exact same strategy. The Atari 2600 sold over 30 million units over its lifetime. The industry was growing fast, almost too fast. And then came the crash. In 1983, the North American video game industry collapsed. The market was flooded with low-quality games rushed out to capitalize on the boom. Retailers couldn't sell their inventory. Consumer trust evaporated. Revenue dropped from $3 billion in 1983 to just $100 million by 1985. Experts declared video games a fad. They said it was over. They were spectacularly wrong. In 1985, Nintendo released the Nintendo Entertainment System in North America. Nintendo understood what Atari had failed to grasp: quality control matters. They implemented strict licensing programs, forcing developers to meet standards before publishing on their platform. The NES launched with Super Mario Bros., and everything changed again. By 1990, Nintendo controlled over 80% of the American video game market. The industry hadn't died. It had merely been waiting for someone to do it right. Gaming's second act was underway, and this time, the foundation was far more solid. The 1990s brought an explosion of innovation that would permanently reshape the industry's economics. Sega entered the console wars with the Genesis, creating genuine competition for Nintendo. Competition drives investment, and investment drives innovation. We saw the birth of franchises that still generate billions today: Sonic the Hedgehog, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and eventually, with the PlayStation's arrival in 1994, games like Final Fantasy VII that pushed storytelling in games to cinematic heights. Sony entering the console market was one of the most consequential business decisions in entertainment history. The PlayStation sold over 100 million units. Gaming was no longer a niche hobby for kids. It was mainstream entertainment for everyone. While consoles were dominating living rooms, something equally transformative was happening on personal computers. PC gaming gave rise to a completely different ecosystem, one built on modding communities, online multiplayer, and independent development. Games like Doom and Quake in the early 90s demonstrated that players wanted to fight each other, not just fight the computer. This demand for online competition planted seeds that would eventually grow into the multi-billion-dollar esports and live service markets we know today. Blizzard Entertainment launched StarCraft in 1998, which became so popular in South Korea that professional gaming leagues formed around it. Broadcasters aired matches on national television. Players became celebrities. The blueprint for esports had been written, even if the world didn't fully recognize it yet. The 2000s brought the internet era to consoles, and that shift unlocked an entirely new revenue dimension. Xbox Live launched in 2002, charging players a subscription fee to compete online. Suddenly, gaming companies had recurring revenue streams, money that came in every month, not just at the point of sale. This model proved remarkably powerful. World of Warcraft launched in 2004 and at its peak had over 12 million subscribers paying $15 every single month. Do that math. That is $180 million per month from a single game. Activision Blizzard's market value soared. The rest of the industry watched and learned. Then mobile changed everything again. When Apple launched the App Store in 2008, it democratized game distribution in a way nothing had before. Suddenly, any developer with a laptop and an idea could reach hundreds of millions of players worldwide. Angry Birds, released in 2009, was made by a small Finnish studio called Rovio. It became a global sensation, spawning merchandise, animated films, and theme park attractions. The freemium model, where the game is free to download but monetized through in-app purchases, emerged and proved extraordinarily lucrative. Mobile gaming today generates over $90 billion annually, making it the single largest segment of the entire gaming market. The concept of in-game purchases itself deserves deeper examination, because it fundamentally restructured how the industry makes money. Before digital storefronts, a game was a product. You bought it once, and that transaction was complete. Today, games like Fortnite, which is itself free to play, generate billions of dollars annually through cosmetic purchases alone. Epic Games reported that Fortnite earned over $9 billion in its first 2 years. Players willingly pay for character skins, dance animations, and seasonal content that has no impact on actual gameplay. The psychological mechanisms behind these purchases, limited time offers, battle passes, social visibility, are carefully engineered. Whether you view that as brilliant business or predatory design depends on your perspective, but the financial results are undeniable. Streaming technology added yet another revenue layer. Twitch launched in 2011, and YouTube gaming followed. Suddenly, watching other people play video games became its own entertainment industry. Today, Twitch alone reports over 30 million daily active users. Top streamers like Ninja have signed deals worth tens of millions of dollars. Games are now designed with streamability in mind. Developers actively want their games played on camera, because that exposure directly drives sales. Among Us, a small independent game released in 2018, went largely unnoticed until streamers discovered it in 2020. Within months, it had been downloaded over 500 million times. Streaming is now one of the most powerful marketing forces in gaming history. Esports formalized the professional gaming economy. The global esports market was valued at approximately $1.4 billion in 2022. Teams like Team Liquid, FaZe Clan, and Cloud9 have corporate sponsors from major brands including BMW, Red Bull, and Intel. The League of Legends World Championship has peak viewership numbers that rival traditional sporting events. Prize pools for games like Dota 2's The International have surpassed $40 million. Universities now offer esports scholarships. Esports arenas have been purpose-built in major cities across North America, Europe, and Asia. This is not a subculture anymore. It is a mainstream sporting industry. The most recent frontier is the convergence of gaming with technology investment at the infrastructure level. Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo collectively invest billions annually in research and development. Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion in 2023 stands as one of the largest entertainment industry acquisitions in history.